Okay, well, welcome to the show, Rhett. This is Cinematic Suffering. I'm Jason, and that's right there.
It's me.
That's Clay.
It's
we have a
me.
special guest.
Hi, me.
It's me, Mario.
It's me.
So we have Rhett on because he's our first special guest. I mean, we did interview with Mike Kuchek a couple months ago, but Rhett, you're our first official guest on that has recommended a movie to us that we should watch that you thought was a poor movie. And when you suggested it, I was a little bit. I was like, well, wait a minute, Jaws 3. I remember I enjoyed Jaws 3 as a kid, and then you recommended this to us. And Clay was like totally into it. I mean, you're like,
yeah. I knew it was going to be a piece of shit that we could totally make fun of, but I struggled to make fun of it. Honestly, it was weird.
I had hopes and dreams for this.
Well, I mean, in the context of commentary, when we were trying to do witty commentary, there seemed to be a lot of moments in this that were like, okay, do something, movie. But you know, I appreciate it. You know, what makes it really entertaining is to watch it on 1.5 speed on Netflix. To just speed it up, man. Get that shark swimming quicker.
Yeah, right. We should have done that when we did our watch through of it. That we should have just sped it up just a little bit so it wouldn't feel like the hour and 39 minutes that it was. I think. I don't know.
It was about 1:39. Yeah.
Yeah, I do have a question for you, Rhett. So on suggesting this, and I have a couple questions, but my first one is, how dare you?
How dare you?
It was my pleasure, really. It was.
I hit Rhett up. I was like, think of any movies that you thought were either dumb or you didn't enjoy. That was a kind of a slog to get through, and you had a couple of suggestions, but then you came like soon came out with what about Jaws 3? And I was like, and like I was saying at the beginning here, I was like, oh well, I remember seeing Jaws 3 as a kid and seeing it in the theaters, and it did scare me because floating fish heads and shit like that.
I remember it in the theater. Me and two of my friends from down the street and it was in the summer too. It came out in the summer. Yep. So I remember going to see it because it was like one of those things where me and my two friends would go to the movies during that summer. I remember seeing correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Octopussy came out in that same summer as well.
Oh, did it?
Yes, and I remember seeing that too. So, but Jaws 3 was interesting because, the 3D, it's that sensation of 3D in the 80s.
Yeah.
So, like watching it now as an adult, and then just everything, all the shtick of 3D. Is so ridiculous.
So you guys saw it in 3D originally?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I never did. So which gives it a whole other layer of silly when you see the
oh, absolutely.
Floating at you for no good reason.
Well, just those certain moments where they purposely make inanimate objects where it would just 3D coming at you. They would do those stupid little like Friday the 13th when they did the harpoon gun like that. But I'm talking about just inanimate objects. Like there's a scene in Jaws 3 where there's some design to one of the tunnels or whatever. I think it's like a snake head or something, and it just purposely moves the tongue just getting closer to your eyeball. Things like that is just just the 3D experience is just stuff like
plastic manta ray,
exactly. But I mean, come on, when they actually destroy Jaws in the movie, and then you have its guts flying at you in 3D, and then it's Jaws. I'm just, and then also too, just how poor quality the film is in general.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the edges of the screen, you can see how grainy and just kind of this is a 3D video. Yeah,
I'm glad you brought that up because Clay and I were noticing that when we were watching it, even though we're we're both watching it through streaming, and Clay's got the extra layer of not being able to see the full picture that I can. But yeah, even that we could see the graininess and the choppiness and how poor quality it was.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think anyone's bothered to do like an HD upgrade for this movie or anything. They haven't even thought about it. They're like,
no, that's taking money and throwing it in a fire. I mean, seriously. I mean, but also the charm of the 3D experience in not 3D is also the experience. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so terrible that you have to see it, naked.
What did you think, Clay, when you saw the? Because I remember seeing those images in 3D, but what did you think when you see them in the 2D?
I was laughing hysterically, honestly. I just remember when I was a kid, again, I was a little kid, so me and my friends are, the shark and the whole thing. And there's like so many scenes in that film that they purposely did that for the 3D. So the jump scares, those certain things like that. But seeing it in 2D and there are so many awful things about this movie. It just in general. I mean, and the funny part is that this isn't the killer, because if I told you, hey, let's watch The Revenge, number 4, that is the worst movie of all time. Jaws-wise.
And that's the one with Michael Caine in it.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the one where somehow Jaws learns where everyone lives and goes to their area to stalk them, to kill them. Well, and then somehow knows that the mother is she's out in the Caribbean, so I need to go out there to kill. Like, I need to go kill the mom, who's like really never even stepped foot in the water in the first 2 films, but yet she needs to be killed because she's a Brody. So we need to get rid of her. But I was just like the stalking thing and all that. Just how this utterly ridiculous. The 4th one is just so. Who came up with that idea in general?
I mean, a fun fact about the 3rd one, which is what we're focusing on, is that it was originally pitched to be a parody, like a satire, and it was going to be a National Lampoon style satire. And Steven Spielberg said, "You're not going to make this movie. I'm going to pull my name off of it as producer." And I'm sure he wasn't even really involved directly if you do this. So I think what we were left with was like, all right, well, we're just going to make. I mean, there were 3 writers on this turd. Yeah. There was Peter Benchley, which writer, is a popular fiction writer. Richard Matheson and Carl Gottlieb. Yeah. Yeah. It's baffling to me that it took 3 people to write this turd.
And these are talented writers too. Peter Benchley and you said Richard Matheson.
Yeah,
I mean, I love Richard Matheson's work and his writing. And Benchley is no slouch himself. He did the original Jaws book, before it became a movie. So you'd think with those 2 kind of high prolific writers, but all it was just one big. It was one big suck fest for SeaWorld. That's what it was. It's like, hey, let's promote SeaWorld Orlando or wherever it's located. And I remember going to SeaWorld during that time, and they had all the Jaws exhibits there. They had the actual size of what the shark was like, and you could go in and see it. They had a stuffed white shark that was like on display in this aquarium area, and it was really kind of odd and weird, but I loved it as a kid. But now seeing it on screen and seeing how cheesy everything is, and especially the water skiing moments, those are just
God, it was so bad.
But let's get. I just want to point out the best scene in the entire movie. And I know that people probably just skimmed over this, but I'm sorry. But in me personally, I was dying laughing at this. Was the scene where, so they've discovered that the shark is in the it's in the water there in the park, right? And so they're telling everyone that, hey, we need to get everyone out of that underwater tunnel thing that they're all and they're like, I don't know where to go, and it's like, it's a tunnel, you can go that way or that way.
It's underwater. Where is the closest
what
exit?
Other directions can you go? You have that way and that way, right? So they're all scrambling, and people are starting to, they're like, don't panic, everyone, we're gonna just follow your guide. They're going to lead you out. So they're like, okay, we're leaving. And the guy says, okay, follow me this way. And then you hear this little girl's voice go, hey, daddy, a fish. And then it's quiet for like 2 seconds. And then you hear, holy shit. Like, and then you see the jaws coming over their heads, and it's moving painstakingly slow. Like, every time you see the jaws, I mean, it's like, it's like even the guy in the tunnel that's leading it, I'm its bait, leading it into the tunnel, and it's just moving painstakingly slow, so there's just so many.
Backhands his daughter. It's like, why do you think we're here, dummy? We're
a fish, you think, so but that thing and just him, holy shit, like that just was the best scene of the whole film. So
I mean, I like the presumption that the shark, and they would presume correctly that the shark could get into the tunnel, but I would be like, I think we're safe in here. I think that this should be a shark-proof tunnel, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about this though, just to take a moment, if you think about Jaws 3 and Jaws 4, in a lot of ways they gave us the Meg. Like, these two films gave us the Meg, and
a whole subculture of intentionally awful shark movies. Like, I mean, it's
incredible though. I mean, the Meg is like hands down. And I remember everyone was shocked at how much money it made. Like, people just were in droves to see the Meg. And I remember making a joke to Lily about it, saying, I'm all wait till the scene where Jason Statham does a roundhouse kick, or he's going to kick the shark. There's going to be a kung fu kick at some point to the shark, and he actually did it. It's in the film. So I mean, wow.
Yeah, like this Jaws 3 kind of reminded me of how much it kind of, in a way, made the Meg 2 seem like a masterpiece in comparison.
It had the giant squid. Come on. You sold me on the giant squid. As soon as there was a giant squid, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm on board. I'm on board for this. So, I mean, even the Sharknadoes, and I mean, incredible. I mean, even Mystery Science Theater didn't even need to touch those. They were genius without any assistance. They were so terrible.
I think that they went after those just because in a way, it was like, I dare you to come after us, MST3K. It's like, okay, well, we're going to.
Yeah, no kidding.
I think when I think of like the movies like Sharknado and the Shark versus Robo Shark and those kind of sci-fi movies, these are creators that are intentionally going out and they know they're not going to be making the best film ever. Yeah. They know it's going to be cheesy. They're very self-aware of what they're doing. My favorite films are ones where the directors are not self-aware, that they're not aware that what they're creating is a huge piece of shit. But I say a huge piece of shit in the nicest way possible. That when I think in Jaws 3, that this guy never directed another movie. Or is that right?
I didn't do my due diligence.
I don't know. I didn't do that.
I don't think he directed another movie after this. This was his one and only film.
What IMDb says here. If I could get this ad out of the way, which I refuse to pay to make go away. Well, it says he's known for other movies, but he's the art director. Not as the director. I think you're right. Yeah, I think that was his one his
directorial debut
and finale, apparently.
And then after that, they're like,
Well, we were just going to talk about, the director. It's like, I wonder how much control he had over the actors, because we all know by now that Dennis Quaid was just loopy on coke the entire time, and he barely remembers
really
making
safe.
this movie.
That's very safe. I'd say that's very safe.
Well, I mean, Dennis Quaid would admit to it, and it was there was just so many weird factors about this. Like, one of the odd things about it to me that kind of struck me is that the whole thing felt like a long form SeaWorld commercial.
Yeah,
but it accidentally became one of the most like scathing indictments of SeaWorld. It's like, yeah, assholes, this is what happens when you bring animals in and make them perform for a bunch of mouth breathing dickheads. Bad things happen, so it obviously wasn't intentional. It was probably meant to be like SeaWorld had to have just pretty much paid for that.
But also
movie.
consider the time period. I mean, because we are all children of the 80s. And I mean, the 80s is all about that excess. And so it was always about that over the top. Everything was always so like, I hate to say it and not make it a political discussion, but everything was so capitalist. It was just that Ronald Reagan era of just spend and just glorious, money and just like, and the whole SeaWorld thing and that what you were saying. I mean, it's just like, because I mean, in the end, they didn't even really bother to try to make the owner with Louis Gossett Jr. to be kind of an irresponsible kind of, money hungry dickhead. They didn't try to go that route. They're just like, he's just trying to run this park,
I think
put the fish in there, just like, you know what I mean?
They're trying to allude to it.
They're
trying to allude to it a little bit, but there was a point. There's a funny point though in the movie where Louis Gossett Jr. is talking to several people outside underneath on the grass. It looks like they're having a nice little investors party or something. And the way the direction is, the edit works, he just walks away. And you see him walking away by himself, and I think I said in the movie that he's like, I've had enough. I'm getting the fuck out of here. Like, I'm up here with this movie. I'm not going to be in it anymore. I don't even know what I'm doing here.
Well, I mean, dude, Jaws ate his nephew. I mean, come on, he ate his nephew. Remember?
Yeah, that's right.
I don't remember it actually.
Yeah, okay. The scene. Well, it's not Louis Gossett Jr.'s literal nephew, but the character's nephew. But he basically the scene where Jaws breaks. Okay, just in general, the scene at the end, right before they kill Jaws, he bursts through the glass in that control room that happens to be underwater.
Right. Yeah.
And then his nephew is the controller, the guy that, because he yells at him nephew a few times, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's his nephew. And then Jaws grabs him. And then starts pulling him out, and then you just see the jaws going nom 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 nom, and then you see blood, and then that's it. You know what I mean? There's like, and then you see his body slowly just slowly drop to the floor. He's just kind of numb, and then and then also to the British guy that the hotshot photographer, news guy who leads Jaws into that tunnel, and then he somehow can't figure out that he has to go the same direction because he's pulling the rope. Remember, he's pulling that rope to get to is to my safety, is to grab that, and somehow the rope breaks. Yet he doesn't have the common sense to just keep swimming in that same direction he's moving to. And Jaws doesn't eat him. He just kind of swallows him. And then his body is kind of there, lodged inside there with his happened to be holding a grenade. But he did it, and you see him inside Jaws, and you see the and it's but he's not actually in the teeth. He's behind the teeth.
Yeah, so it's like getting gummed to death.
Yeah, that's what we were saying. He's like gumming him to death. He's like, and then that was it. And we're like, okay. And then somehow
the shark growls,
didn't swallow him. Yeah, and it growls too. It does that. There's a few times where it growls too. Yeah, that's right. But that scene in general, and I mean, this Jaws is moving so painstakingly slow. It's like, dude, literally, you don't even have to try to escape it. It's barely moving at you, but somehow he's in its stomach before you know it, So
this is. That was that scene. I remember that scene. That's the dude from Manimal, by the way, who gets swallowed up. And I always thought, like, I think as a kid that I thought that scene was horrific myself. When I was a kid, I was like, holy shit, that is horrifying, and the body is still there. And, I was like, it's still lodged. I never put two and two together. Like, hey, this probably wouldn't never happen. Jaws would probably rip him apart and, and
or
stuff
at least
like that.
Bite him. But didn't even do that. He just kind of like a constrictor. He just swallowed him, and that was it. But that's a good point. I didn't even realize that was the guy from Manimal. I was like trying to I was trying to think, because the guy who is his partner has been in so many things within the last like 20 years, especially. Yeah. I mean, even from Braveheart all the way to he was in a few Guy Ritchie movies and a few other things I saw him in. I just can't, one of those actors, I just can't remember his name, but I remember his face. I've seen him in dozens of things. But I mean, Leah Thompson's in it too, which was also something I totally forgot.
her first
Oh
film.
well, and Leah Thompson, like totally relevant to this movie. I was like, let me Google what other movies was she nude in, and so and the answer is All the Right Moves. She does a sex scene with Tom Cruise, so we can you can check that out later. But yeah, anyway, totally irrelevant and
That was. But that was Leah Thompson's first role, first movie role. So
Interesting.
I mean, and I like that most of the actors in this film did go on to do better things. Dennis Quaid went on to do a lot of great stuff. So did Louis Gossett, Gossett Jr.,
of course.
Leah Thompson. Of course, they all went to go do their careers didn't get destroyed by this movie, luckily. So.
Well, I do want to point out that there is the Louis Gossett Jr. trilogy in that era of time that are all exceptionally awful movies.
Yeah.
Jaws 3 we've covered. We're covering that right now. The second one will be Firewalker. Remember that?
I haven't seen that one. I haven't seen it. No.
Chuck Norris. Norris.
Okay.
Louis Gossett Jr. It's that heyday of Raiders of the Lost Ark was really big in that period of time. So Chuck Norris had to do his own Raiders of the Lost Ark. That movie is awful but great in an awful way. Yeah. Also, his king shit role for me, because every time I think of Louis Gossett Jr., I will always think of Iron Eagle. Always.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then just a little tidbit too, just so that, if you guys blow your mind, because I was watching this. There's a show that I really like on Prime called Bosch, and the kid from Iron Eagle is the main serial killer in the first season of Bosch. Which I didn't even recognize him until about halfway. And I'm like, wait a second, that's a kid from Iron Eagle. So just to blow your mind, check that out. It's the main kid from Iron Eagle is a serial killer in Bosch. So.
It's like 6 degrees of separation from Jaws 3D.
Yeah, it's the nexus. It's where all other movies spawn from.
Basically, yeah. And then Dennis Quaid went on to do Inner Space with Martin Short, which is the greatest Dennis Quaid movie. I'm not going to apologize for that. Dreamscape was good. That was that literally was probably the same year, if not the year before or after Jaws 3 too. That's the same era of time.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Because Leah Thompson went on to do like Back to the Future, which is in '85, I think, a couple of years later. But
and she did a movie with Andrew Dice Clay.
Really?
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Is that Ford Fairlane?
No, it's before he became famous. He was a small part in the movie, but it was her and her friend. It was like it's one of those typical 80s summer movies where it's like teenage kids and there's always some nudity and like, always some,
Was it casual sex?
I think so. That sounds right. Yeah, that sounds right.
So,
but Andrew Dice Clay.
My research was paying off there. Yeah.
So on Jaws 3, there are some things I was noting when we were watching it. The things that I know that sharks can and can't do. We know that sharks can't. They don't growl. They don't make really sounds. We know they can breach, but I didn't know they could swim just as fast as a rowboat or as a speedboat going, 35, 40 miles an hour. Apparently they can. They can catch up. And so I did read that sharks can swim up to a speed of 35 miles per hour. That's I think that was only in short bursts, not like continuously going.
Okay.
So and I remember that scene. If I was a cynical person, I'd think like that they were just dragging some prop behind the skiers.
That'd be funny if the prop would just kind of came off its hinge, just start flopping around in the water as getting dragged behind. They had to stop the scene at a couple times.
Well, I mean, come on, they couldn't afford a submersible, so it's not like there's a submersible right there following it. So yeah, it probably was. If there were 8 skiers, it was the 9th skier technically. So sharks can't swim backwards. They can't go into things and then just like put in reverse and just go backing up. No, they always swim forward. They have to turn around. There's no way they can, like it showed Jaws, the monster. They call him something. What did they call it? It was another name. I think whatever they called the first shark in Jaws. What does Steven Spielberg have a name for him? I don't know. Yeah,
I used to know that little bit of trivia, but I don't know.
But it would. It's something similar, probably. But it would put its face into something and start try to get something, and then it would just like back up.
Yeah.
Boop,
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm no marine biologist, but do sharks give a shit about their babies? Like this shark was pissed. Like, give me back my kid.
Well, not to mention the fact that they really came to that conclusion without any real. There was no discussion. It was just all of a sudden she's like, "It's her baby. It's mama." They just
Like,
not just like, well, huh?
Because
like where did you come
werewolves.
up? And so there's two sharks, so that must be the kid, so that must be the mom. It didn't really make a lot of sense there. They just kind of 2 and 2. So.
That's the brilliance you get when 3 writers collaborate, is that they do a Beowulf analogy.
Well,
here's a thought though. Maybe with the writers that they originally intended to write this shtick movie that got turned down, Spielberg backed out. Then they got angry and they said, okay. Maybe they just drew straws and said, hey, let's come up with the most ridiculous idea. And whoever has the most ridiculous idea, that's the one we're going with. And
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I agree. And I was wondering, like, listening to the dialogue, I was thinking, like, is this movie done in protest? Like, it seems like that they just I imagine the director was just like, why don't y'all just say stuff? Like, what? You want us to ad-lib every line of dialogue?
Exactly.
Yeah, just
it didn't really make that much sense anyway. So I imagine there had to be some ad libs going on somewhere.
Yeah.
And they're on their drug fueled binges between takes.
Yeah, all right, frolic.
All right, just get some skis up. I want a lot of shots with the skiers, please. The water.
Y'all have sex. It's like, this is a PG-13 movie, dude. We can't do. Oh, all right.
I want to see full penetration.
Well, they kind of did in that one scene where they first introduced the baby shark, and they're swimming around that I guess inside the park there was that fake like sunken boat or whatever, and they're like cruising around that boat or whatever, and then all of a sudden you see the baby Jaws like attack the boat, but they used a prop that basically looked like a stick that they just painted a shark face on the end and then just jabbed it into it. You know what I mean? If you watch a scene, it's like, it looks incredibly like, huh? It looks like they're just jabbing something into it. I was laughing at that too. And not to mention when they discover the body, when they discover the guy, and the people are all in the tunnels or whatever, and they look out the window, then all of a sudden you just see just starts coming in, and then you see this one girl and she's just screaming, and someone else had pushed her up against the glass. So you see her
yes. I was remember Clara watching, I mentioned that. I was like, what the hell is she doing?
But you see this hand just pushed her into the glass, and the body's like right next to her.
I love the injuries to the body that they found too. I was thinking, like, does the shark only eat skin? Because this dude is
apparently.
He's like me when I eat fried chicken. I just love taking the skin off first. And eating that skin, and then
it's like Cartman eating KFC.
Well, I don't know. That body that they showed, like when they showed and she's like, oh my God, and it had this. She's like explaining the bite radius or whatever. But when you look at it, it just looks like a deformed piece of meat with like one little bone sticking out. And then it's like, it just looks like a mound of meat. It's like, what are we looking at? This could be a rump roast for all I know. It's like, what is this? So, but she got the bite radius immediately. Oh, it's like this big. So it's like, oh yeah, she's a doctor. All right. So
I love that Roy Scheider refused to be in this movie. He was asked to be in Jaws 3, but he was like adamantly said no. And that's why he agreed to do that Blue Thunder movie, because he just wanted to do something to get people off his back to be in this Jaws.
Saw that in the theater too.
I have a quote
saw that in the theater too.
It's relevant to this. Roy
What's the
Schneider
quote?
said Mephistopheles couldn't make him do. I quote: Mephistopheles couldn't talk me into doing Jaws 3. So, and I was wondering, like, why did you bring up something from German folklore? That's a learned man bringing up Mephistopheles about his.
Well, he was in a helicopter cop movie. Come on,
Yeah.
And he still somehow did better than Jaws 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. In that period of time, though, that was like that thing is because also, too, remember we had Kit. So you had that, the talking car.
Yeah.
And then they eventually had like a Firefox with Clint Eastwood, which was that stealth bomber plane or whatever that thing was. And then you have
I like that one.
Blue Thunder with, Roy Schneider went on to that. But I mean, if you really want to get to the nitty gritty of it, I mean, Jaws 1 and 2 are actually good films.
Yeah.
I mean, just
recall,
to say,
all I remember from Jaws 2 was the finale where he chews on the big electrical cable. That's the only part that sticks out to me. But it's been years and years since I've seen it.
It's been years, but I remember enjoying the hell out of Jaws 1 and 2. Though I did like 2, even though Roy Scheider said even in that film he was reluctant to do. But he did
it's
anyway.
not a sequel movie. I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, the Jaws is dead in the first film. It's dead.
Right.
So we're moving on, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden there's another killer shark. So I agree with that. 2 really was an unnecessary movie, but to be honest, the suspense of the film, especially in the scenes with all the kids on the boat, on those different boats, and then Jaws coming and just kind of picking them off like one at a time. That was actually really good suspense in general for any kind of movie like that. And also, and I do give them credit for when they did do Jaws 3, they did bring in the Brody brothers. So Dennis Quaid and his brother coming in to, reprising those roles or whatever. I was like, okay, that was kind of an interesting idea. But then they're like, okay, we got through 3, so now we're going to do 4. So who should we bring in 4? The mother. That's right. Let's bring her in. So I just, I do wonder at times if Hollywood is just like literally just, you know what I mean? They're laughing at all of us. Just like, hey, what can we come up with that these idiots will come watch? And so
yeah, definitely. And it is insulting to the audience, but like it gets asses in seats. I mean, thankfully, it's totally kind of different topic in a way.
Yeah, my dumb ass was in the seat in Jaws 3, so I was there.
I mean, we were kids then. It makes sense then, but like as adults, I mean, we're starting to see some like these big Hollywood tentpole movies are starting to lose money and not do as well. So maybe things are changing. I kind of doubt it, but
who knows, man. But it's been the Jaws 3 has been was a crazy fucking ride. I'm glad I watched it again at least. Now I never have to watch it ever again, and I will not ever watch it ever again because
I watched it twice, but the second time on 1.5 speeds, which I highly recommend. If you're going to watch the movie, watch it fast.
We digress. So that was our Jaws 3 review. Rhett, I want to say fuck you very much for recommending this movie.
Oh, such hurtful things.
I love you, buddy.
Thank you so very much. I enjoyed talking about it and segueing into other stupid shit as well. So all good.
Absolutely.
Dude, you are welcome on anytime you want to come on, man. It was a blast talking to you and hanging out. So.
Oh, and do you have anything you wanted to promote to the 3 people that listen to us?
to our 8 listeners.
Oh God, I don't have. I do a bunch of stupid bands, and we're not going to discuss them because I'm tired of talking about bands. So
I'll tell you then. Rhett's in Stygian Crown. Stygian Crown has a new album coming out very soon on Cruz del Sur Music. So make sure what's the name of the album again?
Funeral for a King. It's out February 23rd. Actually, we just got the artwork done for it, and I've never had the opportunity in a long time to work. I haven't had the opportunity to work with Chris Burwimp in a long time, and I did a band years ago that did album cover for us. So he did this new one for us, and it's actually going to be on a gatefold vinyl. And it's kind of funny because the label actually likes the cover more than we do. So he's like he's so defensive over it that he refused to have our logo even on it. So it's like,
oh wow,
the logo's not. No, we're gonna put that on a sticker. You can't touch this cover. Let's leave it alone. Wow. So and then the artist was like, Chris was like, hey, I made space for the logo. Why is the logo not there? I said, you need to talk to the label, dude. They took ownership. They're not, they're like, fuck you guys. It's about the cover now. So yeah,
well,
February 23rd.
Awesome.
Yeah, but
yeah.
honestly, if you like doom metal, you gotta listen to Stygian Crown. It's some good stuff, y'all.
Well, thank you
Yeah,
guys.
fans of Candlemas, Solitude Eternus, My Dying Bride. This new album definitely has some My Dying Bride in it. So yeah, definitely pick it up. It's going to be fantastic. Okay, so I guess that's about it. Rhett, thank you so much for joining us on Cinematic Suffering.
Appreciate you coming on, Rhett.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'd love to do this again. You guys pick the movie, then I'll suffer through that one as well.
We'll fine tune the lists a little bit, maybe, and so we don't have to suffer as much as we did this time. But maybe that's what we need to do because that is the name of the channel. So
yes,
we do need to suffer.
Got to stay on brand.
We have to stay on brand. We haven't done that in a while. We've been talking about how we've been seeing a lot of good horror movies in the past. So this was definitely right up our alley.
It's got to stop.
No more good horror movies. But okay, so we are out of here. Thank you so much, Rhett, Clay. Love you guys. Cinematic Suffering.
Much love, y'all. Peace out.
Take care.
Bye.